One.
Hi, I'm Richie.
I'm Jeremy.
And this is Week in Review with Richie and
Jeremy.
And this is what episode?
Episode 10.
Episode 10. That's like a milestone there, right? Like a little bit of a milestone.
We should have a special.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know
we
what?
We should have a special guest.
We do have a special guest. So the special guest we have here, he started out in the military. While he was in the military, got married. Then went to law school. While in law school, had kids. Then came out of law school, started a law practice. During that time of being in a law practice, he became a county commissioner and now is a state representative for Ohio, for Pickaway County, Brian Stewart. Welcome on the show, Brian.
I'm honored.
Did I get everything right there? Was I wrong?
I wish every introduction was that good. That made me sound halfway decent. This is cool, guys. Amazing studio.
Thank you.
This is,
Thank you.
High tech.
Thank you.
Another cool thing we have in Circleville.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Well, you know, with AI going as crazy as it is, and some things being believable on AI.
Yeah.
You know, having a real conversation on a podcast and just asking people questions, I think it is the new thing, you know, because it's real. Yeah. You know it's real. You can't fake this.
It's the best way to have a conversation in my line of work is a long-form conversation where you can actually, you know, explain something in longer than 4-second intervals. I've given interviews on the network TVs where, you know, you talk for 10 minutes and it's 6 seconds of clip.
Right.
And you're just not going to be able to discuss some of the issues we have in that short amount of time. So this is great.
Right.
I was excited about the Waffle House and the Charlie's steaks, but this probably had pretty high up there.
I got some information on that, actually. Well, first off, you know, I want to talk about Buc-ee's.
Oh,
so,
wow.
you know, DeWine went to Buc-ee's and did the ribbon cutting. You know that they had $1 million the first day. That's what they made. Wow. Buc-ee's
Well, not that they made $1 million in sales.
$1 million in sales.
$1 million in sales.
But the mayor over there said that, you know, every hotel in the area was booked because they had people that flew in.
Yeah, people from I heard people from Japan and whatnot flew in for this grand opening as well.
Everybody know Buc-ee's?
Oh, so I just did a 23-hour trip with my family, road trip from Key West all the way back home.
Uh-huh.
And that's a long road trip.
Right.
And we stopped at multiple Buc-ee's. I'm a believer. Yeah.
You're a Buc-ee believer?
You go into those restrooms, you're like, am I in a gas station or Buckingham Palace? This is pretty cool.
Richie's never been in one. I was in one in Texas, and I'm going to tell you, it's an experience. And having one that's so close is pretty cool. You know, they're planning for another one, too.
Really?
Here in Ohio. It's in Marion. So I think they're going to go kind of around Ohio.
They would do very well on 71. 70's good,
Mm-hmm.
but 71's like, that's where the real OhioIn
Right.
stretch is, you know.
Yeah.
Cleveland to Cincinnati.
Yep.
Now you have a Buc-ee's.
Yeah, hey.
So
Big stuff.
this new smoothie shop opened today.
Oh yeah. What's the name of it? What's the name of that place?
It's Pulp.
Pulp, and it's located.
It's located right there by your favorite sandwich shop.
My favorite sandwich shop.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Jimmy John's. It's over by Jimmy John's.
Oh yeah, Jimmy John's.
Yeah, it's over there. So they opened up. Real cool thing about that is
Jimmy John's has a good cheesesteak.
Does it?
I think so.
So they're gonna, you know, there's another.
Oh wait, no,
opening this
I'm sorry.
week.
That's Jersey Mike's. My mistake. That was Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, Jersey Mike's does
Jersey
have
Mike's
it.
has
They
a
have a
good
spicy
cheesesteak.
one. It's super good. Anyway, the guy that runs that and owns that business is 21 years old,
The smoothie place that just opened up.
and this is his second one.
That's great.
Wow,
At 21
impressive.
years old, and I talked to his mom on site during the opening, and I guess he had a lawn care job, like he had a full blown lawn care corporation before he graduated high school and stuff. So he's just an entrepreneur since the age of like 12.
Nice.
So that's
And they're
really
doing
cool.
more than just smoothies, right? They have like
They have
bowl-
smoothies. They have some wraps and things like that. They have the
Nice.
ginger shot. So when we were down there, the mayor took a ginger shot, and she did not like it.
Wow.
I've never had one of those. They offered me one. I said no.
Ginger shots are delicious. Those and wheatgrass shots, yum.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But wait. You're wearing a regular T-shirt again.
it's a regular T-shirt.
What kind of
today. I gotta
nonsense
dress up.
is
It's
this?
It's a special show.
Okay, fine. I'll let that slide. But that's 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Right.
You're slacking.
And then tomorrow is the big opening of Charlie's cheesesteaks.
Ooh, I heard the first 25 people get free
Yep.
mini cheesesteak? Or what do they get free?
They get a free cheesesteak.
Free cheesesteak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This
I've
is gonna
never
be a-
had. Have you had?
Charlie's?
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
So
And they have French fries
when
too,
I go
right?
to
That's what the side is.
when I go to the Statehouse, I try not to eat things that I can get back in Circleville, right? So you try to now we're kind of booming, right? So a lot of our restaurant, a lot of the restaurants, we used to not have City Barbecue, we used to not have Chipotle, so that was like a special occasion in Columbus. There's very few things like that now. So, but Charlie's is one of them. So when I'm leaving the Statehouse through Grove City, that's a stop.
Well, you're gonna have to find something else because officially tomorrow it'll be open.
And they got the wings too, which is
Yeah, I've never had anything in the. Have you? Had
Lancaster location has the wings.
Uh-huh.
Grove City does not. I don't know what the rubric is where which Charlies get wings and which ones don't. But they're not bad.
Now my question is
I didn't know that.
Is Charlie's gonna get into the sign battle with McDonald's and Bojangles?
You're right.
I
you
wonder
see
if we're
that?
I did. I did.
I wonder if Charlie's gonna throw their hat in the game in this one.
Bojangles stopped, but I'm still eating at Bojangles. I really like their chicken.
Well, can I make? I'm going to plant a seed here.
Okay.
For all of you good entrepreneurs out there, my next horizon, my next white whale. We need a Gold Star chili here. I'm a Gold Star chili partisan. I like them both. I like Skyline. I like Gold Star. But I think considering the other chains we've gotten here, we're perfect to be a Gold Star town.
Right beside the Waffle House.
Circleville Chili Partners LLC. I'm all in. So.
That's funny. I mean, that's one of the staples of Ohio. When you come to Ohio, that's one of the ones you have to stop and get, right?
It's the donut hole, right? There's none in Chillicothe. There's none in Lancaster. We could have it right here in Circleville.
Wow. You're right.
You could draw.
Throwing it out there. Throwing it out there.
So Brian, I know that you're on your rerun here, your third, right?
That's right.
So what feels different this time?
Oh, different this time. I mean, I think that obviously we are in a more contentious time maybe in America. I mean, I think that people are more plugged into politics in 2026 than when I started running for Asheville Council in 2009. Some of that's good. Some of that is maybe less good. What's motivating me is having started out locally and then done 8 years as a commissioner and now being the Statehouse, and to be the finance chairman in my third term means I'm in the room. Our district is in the room for every single major decision that's happening in the state. It's the Speaker of the House. It's me, another member or two potentially. But, every major issue we've dealt with this term, I've either been the point man or in the room. And so that's a really unique thing for our district. And so the way term limits work, to be able to be the chairman of the Budget Committee for the House of Representatives 2 terms in a row in the House is almost unheard of. And it's never happened, to our understanding, for our district. So, at this point, I'm close to the highest ranking member of the legislature that's come from our district, that's come from Pickaway County, that anybody can, we're still trying to research and get back, see to verify that. But we have a really amazing voice in the legislature right now. And the opportunity to go back and do that again with a new governor who wants to be even bolder than I think where we've been to this point. The opportunity to do that for my last term is really exciting.
Yeah. So
in this election, we have a new governor that's potentially coming, and then do we have a new AG as well?
Yeah, every statewide office holder will be new, so they can serve 2 terms, and so everybody who's currently a statewide office holder is term limited. So now there's a few who are trying to maybe switch jobs. So like our state auditor Keith Faber wants to become our attorney general. Our state treasurer Robert Sprague wants to become our secretary of state. But everybody would be in a new role.
Okay.
And so I think that's exciting. And then obviously from I'm a Republican, so we talk about the Republican ticket, and to have somebody as kind of new and I think bold as Vivek Ramaswamy is an exciting prospect for the state. We've always been, a lot of my lifetime, Ohio has been kind of we have what I call Eeyore syndrome. You guys remember Winnie the Pooh, right? And Eeyore the donkey was just kind of like, thanks for noticing me. Nothing special about me. And Ohio's kind of had that vibe sometimes during my lifetime, and I think we're leaving that behind. And I think all we need is kind of somebody to really put their foot on the gas. And again, the governor's potentially Governor Vivek Ramaswamy's first budget comes to my committee first.
Oh, nice.
And
Nice.
that's a really cool opportunity.
So when's the last time is this frequently that we have these major positions, these major elected officials change, like the governor, the AG, all at the same time?
About every 8 years or in recent history, because that's how much you get in term limits. But even in those situations where you kind of have the musical chairs, the person running for governor is a little bit more of a known quantity. I think in this time we have somebody who's grew up in Ohio, graduated from Ohio, but has been kind of all over the world being successful. And now you have the opportunity for them to kind of come back and bring that experience to our state.
Nice.
And that I think is pretty new.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So this would be you running for your third time. Fourth time. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Didn't mean that mistake. I'm sorry.
No, fourth
and that's
term.
election coming up in November.
We got a primary here on May 5th and then an election in November.
And voting's happening right now.
For
Early,
the primary.
early voting has begun.
And is anybody running against you for the primary?
There is.
Okay.
She who shall not be named.
Excellent.
No. I've never campaigned for my opponents, but I'm sure we'll get into some of that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Brian, tell me a little bit about some of the bills that you hold dear. Some of the stuff that, if somebody was watching this and they were thinking, who's Brian Stewart and what has he done for us over the last couple of years? Tell me a little bit about some of the local bills that you've done.
Well, being the chairman of the budget committee, I sponsored the budget, and that's huge. So that is the biggest blueprint for the state of Ohio. So my name is the sponsor on House Bill 96 that we passed during this term. That delivered a flat tax for the state of Ohio for the first time in history, 2.75%, the second lowest flat tax anywhere in America, the lowest in the Midwest. Property taxes is a huge issue. We did $3.3 billion of property tax relief. We have worked with our county commissioners locally. This was a provision that I fought very hard for, to allow our counties for the first time to partner with the state and double that homestead exemption, that owner occupancy credit, and our county commissioners did it.
Yep, I was here when they did it. I was right in the room.
And so that's $350 reduction right off the top for the seniors and low-income folks who own their own home that need it the most. So that was really exciting for me. I had the provision during my last term to fully ban foreign money from being used in our elections. I not only had to fight the other party on that, I had to fight the leadership of my own party on the floor to fully get that done. There was a deal cooked up where we would sort of go out and say we had banned foreign money, but we left this huge glaring loophole where lawful permanent residents would still get to basically donate unlimited amounts of money even though they can't vote. And so I said, no, if we're going to ban foreign money in our elections, let's fully ban it. I led the fight on the floor. We got that done. The left sued us all the way up to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. We've won every single time. The court has cited the arguments that I've made on the floor. And so proud of that as well.
Nice.
I've passed 17 bills from the House. That's an awful lot.
So you brought a property tax. So I guess I'll jump right in with the first question.
Sure.
How do you feel with the push for no property tax?
Well, I think anybody who is, and look, this is what my opponent is running on, is just circulating petitions saying eliminate property tax altogether with no plan to replace it. Okay, not one single dollar of property tax comes to the state of Ohio. Not one single line item in the budget that I was involved in spent $1 of property tax. That's all local money. 60 to 70% goes to your local schools, and the rest goes to your county government, your city government, your township government, your fire department, your police department, your senior center, your parks district. It's all local money. So when somebody says, well, we're going to eliminate property taxes entirely with no plan to replace it, my opponent just wants to defund the police, defund our schools, defund our fire departments. That's not what Ohioans want. What they want is meaningful relief, stop the spikes that are out of control. We did that in my bill. Stop the ability for governmental entities to get unvoted property tax increases. We did that in my bill. Cap the rate of increase on property taxes to inflation, not just whatever the market reevaluation says your property is worth. So we've done all those things. People are going to see that relief on their bill. But keep in mind, we had 900 property tax levies on the ballot across the state of Ohio in 2023. About 880 of them passed, right? So Ohioans have kind of spoken on this and said, we want to have good schools. We want to have a police department. We want to have a fire department. We want to make sure we're taking care of our seniors. We just want property tax relief. So you can blow a lot of hot air on this and say, well, let's just go defund the police and, kick the hornet's nest and have no plan and be silly about this. Or we can give relief where it matters the most and still fund our law enforcement like Ohioans expect us to do.
Okay. All right. I do have, I like, so, and that's one of the things is like, I've heard the only thing I've ever heard so far, in my opinion, and I'm not that political, I think everybody knows that, is the fact of the whole 20% sales tax thing. But that got me thinking as a business owner, especially with food. We in the state of Ohio, we don't have sales tax on food that's to go. You figure businesses, fast food places that have takeout, supermarkets, whatnot, 70-80% of Kroger in the state of Ohio's business is non-taxable items. And so on every $1 million in taxable sales, non-taxable sales would be $72,000 in taxable income. And I ever thought, like, how come I've never heard anybody ever mention about possibly doing that as a worst case scenario if this gets passed as a backup and try to go that way, or even know what the numbers look like on, because every month I have to do non-taxable sales and taxable sales when I pay my sales tax. So I'm sure the state in the taxation department knows how much is in non-taxable sales per county and whatnot. And if that would, I don't know if those numbers would cover what would be lost from property tax within communities.
It's the numbers are staggering. And here's the example I give. The total amount of property taxes collected across the state of Ohio to fund all of our school districts, police, and fire.
Because Pickaway County is what, 24 million?
No, well, I don't know about Pickaway County's total, but it's $24 billion across the state of Ohio. Okay. $24 billion. The entirety of the state income tax today generates about $11 billion. That's Joe Burrow's salary down to the McDonald's worker. Okay, the entirety of our sales tax today generates about $13 billion. Okay, so literally our property tax is more than sales tax and income tax combined. So if you eliminate $24 billion, think about what you would have to increase those other taxes to make up for it. It'd be astronomical. You're talking about doubling, tripling the income tax. You're talking about quadrupling the sales tax. Now, my opponent says she likes to call it a consumption tax, as if that's somehow going to, fool people.
What does that mean?
It's a sales tax. It's a sales tax, but it's a silly way of thinking it somehow sounds better. It's a sales tax. If you have a 20% sales tax in the state of Ohio, kiss the auto industry goodbye. No one will ever buy a vehicle in Ohio ever again, to say nothing of whether they're going to keep buying sandwiches and Walmart goods and, things downtown. I am extremely skeptical that folks who are rightfully concerned about paying more in property taxes twice a year are going to be excited to pay a 20% sales tax 900 times a year. Right. So, that would be a huge tax on young people. A lot of young people are not on board with this because they see where the tax shift is going. You're putting it all onto the back of the folks who are starting out to appease some folks like my opponent who have, 10 properties and she doesn't want to pay property taxes. She owns 10 rental properties. She doesn't want to pay property taxes. No, that's her prerogative, but it's not good policy.
So another bill that you passed just recently was the NDA bill. So that was a really interesting one because we had a kind of a situation going on, about data centers that have come into the area and stuff like that, and then everybody couldn't talk about it because they were under NDA. So talk to me a little bit about why you decided to do that.
What is the NDA bill, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a non-disclosure. NDA stands for non-disclosure agreement.
Right.
So the bill hadn't quite passed yet. We're going to come back in May, and I think we're really going to try to get this out of the House. I've been a local elected official since 2009. When I was a county commissioner, we had one of the biggest booms in this county that we've ever had. If you think about what we brought, Sofidel, BASF, Amazon, Goodyear, new grain elevator, a lot of the restaurants that have kind of proliferated since started when we were doing that activity. Expansion of DuPont, on and on and on and on. Okay, so we brought 2,200 new good-paying jobs to Pickaway County, $2 billion of private investment. I never signed a non-disclosure agreement, and I never would. And so what we're seeing is, folks are just kind of hitting this easy button. Either they don't have counsel, or they're not listening, or they just, it's happening in a lot of smaller jurisdictions where company comes in and says, if you want to talk to us, you have to sign this non-disclosure agreement. And I think folks either feel pressured, or they don't know their rights, or they're not sort of empowered to kind of stand up and say, no, we're not going to do this. We just want to take that issue off the table. We don't even want it to be an option. It's contrary to the spirit of our public records laws. It's contrary to the spirit of our open meetings laws. And again, it's killing more deals than it's helping, because I think our residents are pretty open-minded to, I want a factory here that's good paying jobs for my kids, right? I want to have, we're happy that Anduril's coming, right? Where you can have 4,000 jobs paying six figures, for kids right out of high school to make airplanes, right? Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's the kind of thing we want. And so, but when you put a gag order in place and essentially tell our elected officials, you're not allowed to tell the residents anything about this deal, then understandably, I think the residents are kind of jumping in the conclusion saying, if you can't tell me it's something good, then I'm going to assume it's something bad.
Right.
And so we want to just take that issue off the table. Folks don't have to share every single trade secret that they know. That's probably not good policy either. But to have an artificial gag order in place against elected officials, it's just bad policy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right.
Um,
And what was the reason why these companies are doing that with elected officials? To benefit in which way, shape, or form?
Look, I'll pick on my fellow lawyers here. Okay, if you're the due diligence lawyer for a company that's trying to expand, you would like to minimize risk. You'd like to minimize uncertainty. You'd like things to go smoother. Of course, you'd like for your company's details to not be bandied about on Facebook every time you go talk to village council. Okay. And so I think they're being overzealous. I think it's just, I think it is, let's see how much we can get. Let's just see if we can get a gag order in place so that people can't talk about our deal. The most charitable view would be, folks say they don't want to expose, they don't want to give their competition a heads up about where they might want to locate, right? But look, if you apply for public incentives, and that's really why they go to governments and talk, if you're going to come and say, hey, we're willing to bring 400 new jobs here, but we need some help with the road work and the infrastructure, there's a give and take there, right? And so if you're going to ask for that benefit, there's going to be a little bit of cost, and that's transparency, and I think that's a good thing.
So another bill that you kind of sponsored was the marijuana bill, right? The marijuana update.
Yeah.
I know I seen you with DeWine on that one. So.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people don't realize our district voted yes on issue 2 by a very slight margin, but we did. And I tell people that at the Statehouse, that was the legalization of marijuana issue.
Okay.
And so.
Thank you.
So Ohioans voted to legalize marijuana through a statute. Statute wasn't particularly well drafted. There were a lot of problems with it that actually prevented the local municipalities and townships from getting the tax revenue that they were supposed to get. So there were problems we had to deal with no matter what. Our district voted yes by about a 2-point margin. Okay. So what you had to start, though, was the Senate came out with a bill that, in my opinion, went too far in sort of rolling back what voters voted for, because it's a statute, so we can adjust it. That's part of the bargain. Okay. If you do an initiated statute, you get a lower threshold to get passed, but it's then subject to every other law, right? So we can make revisions. And so I saw that and I said, look, the governor is sort of here. He hated issue 2. Most of the Senate's probably in the same place. They're not a fan of it either.
Right.
The House was probably just didn't really want to engage. And so the Senate was kind of driving the bus. And what they were driving the bus with was a bill that, in my opinion, went too far and kind of rolling back what voters voted for. So I went to the Speaker of the House and I said, look, that will not pass. I've been in this House, he was new coming back. I'd been there for the last 4 years. I said, that won't pass. Our members are not going to vote to completely overturn core provisions of issue 2. But we agree that voters didn't vote to have unregulated, THC functional products, Delta 8, Chinese imported, kind of products.
We had multiple to open up right here in
We
town.
had multiple, and nobody voted for that. You had multiple stores here in town that smelled like marijuana, that sold products marketed as marijuana, that weren't subject to any of the restrictions that issue 2 voters wanted to see in place. The product's not tested. It's not taxed. It's being marketed to kids.
And how did that circumvent everything? Is it because of the way
it
the
was
statute was written?
There was a loophole in both kind of a federal statute and a state statute that mirrored it that basically kind of took all the guardrails off of hemp. And so because it was called hemp, the fact that it had the same amount of THC as marijuana kind of gave it a legal loophole.
Just the way
around.
they labeled it and worded it
Yeah.
and found the hole in it.
Correct. So what we were trying to do is get rid of this gas station Delta 8 functional marijuana product that's being marketed to kids, that's in packages that look like Fruit Loops, that's not tested, not overseen, not taxed. Okay, we want to get rid of that, and we did. We wanted to have make sure that the municipalities who have voted to allow dispensaries get their tax money. It's about 36%. And then, my belief was preserve as many of the core parts of issue 2 while sort of closing some loopholes. We can't have a situation where, Sofidel can't fire somebody who's high at work. Okay. Businesses should still be able to say, you can't come into our facility and operate heavy machinery under the influence. We as a business are allowed to say, we don't want folks using that product if you're going to make other people unsafe. So we made that clear in the bill.
Now, does that affect people with medical marijuana or just recreational use marijuana?
It is both.
Okay.
Even the medical marijuana statute leaves the employer the right to say, look, you can get the product, but that may not be compatible with our work. Look, this is not what I came to the legislature to work on, candidly.
Right.
But I think this is a good example of where when the Speaker of the House comes and says, you're the guy who needs to fix this, and you're the only person I trust to kind of navigate all of these thorny issues, to work with the governor's office, to work with the Senate, we had 4 factions just in our own caucus, okay, when it came to marijuana and intoxicating hemp and THC beverages. And we worked on it for a year and a half.
Right. It was a long time.
This is one where you get the bill done at the end and there's no parade and no kudos for it. Okay. This was an eat your vegetables assignment. But look, I think Ohio's better off. When you cross the border heading into Michigan, it hits you in the face. You walk around other cities in other parts of America, it hits you in the face. Ohioans, I think, voted and said, we want it to be legal. We want adults to be able to do it. But we don't want it to be at every Ohio State game. We don't want to smell it when we take our kids to the zoo. We want to kind of do it the Ohio way, right? We want to walk before we run. And I think that's what we ended up with. We got rid of the unregulated, Delta 8 THC garbage. We preserved legal adult use marijuana that you can use at home, that you can grow at home. And we made Ohioans safer by kind of closing up some of those loopholes.
Yeah, I think with the where that was, you were smelling it a lot everywhere, and then and being around young kids, and then them smelling it and pointing it out right away,
right?
Or pointing it out on somebody walking by that smells like it as well.
I noticed that because Maine is a recreational state, and they were a recreational state way before Ohio was. And when I went home, I noticed it. I noticed it when exactly what you're saying. When I went out and I drove around town, and I went to certain places and stuff, I smelt it.
Right.
I'm not a smoker. I don't have any problems with marijuana. But I don't want to smell cigarette smoke either. I don't want to walk into a room and have cigarette, they used to be in the bars. They used to be everywhere. Everybody smoked cigarettes. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't want to smell it,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of get that. So,
yeah, I mean, we preserve that you can use the product at your own residence, okay, any residential parcel that you own. But we did at this point resist the idea that you'll have weed smoking section of every bar in town, okay?
like a cigarette smoking.
That's right.
Now, when you say smoking at your own house, can they smoke in there? That are they contained to within their house or anywhere on their property?
That's a great point. So the Senate bill would have said you got to be inside. I thought that was dumb, right? So we loosened that definition. We just made clear, just be on your own property, right? You want to be on the front porch. If you own a farm and you want to be in the the back 9 acres and smoke in the middle of the field, that's your prerogative. But do it on your own property. Don't do it on places where the public's invited for all the reasons we just talked about.
Right. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the biggest issues you think that are affecting Ohio right now?
I think that Ohioans generally don't understand how close we have been to rolling blackouts.
Really?
Yeah.
I do, because I remember that from last year. I remember doing some of those stories.
Yeah. I don't think people appreciate the fact that if we had 2 major factories that both wanted to come here, and let's just assume they were going to go to the place where everybody agrees that they're going to go, right? They're going to right beside DuPont, right by Sofidel. Okay. Mm-hmm. Those have usually been pretty uncontroversial. We probably wouldn't have enough juice to serve them both. Right. And I think that is a real problem if we're going to kind of regain our status as a premier leading state. I think that the Midwest as a whole is in danger of kind of getting left behind compared to other regions of the country. Southeast, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, they're booming. Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania are all losing population at a rapid rate. Now, Ohio's actually, when it comes to the Midwest, we're holding our own more than those other states. But you can tell when the trend is away from us, we probably have to work that much harder to grow and be successful and be a place where people want to come live. I would like to see us get back to where we were, where, everything good was happening in Ohio. You couldn't have an Ohioan, you couldn't have a presidential ticket without an Ohioan on it because we were the coolest place to be, the most economic development, the most activity, people were flocking here. And I'd like to see us get back to that. I think we are a much cooler state than we give ourselves credit for, let alone other people. And I think, when I go to Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati, I mean, there's a million things to do. Mm-hmm. And we just have to do a better job telling our own story. Crazy stat. In the most recent budget, I included a provision to quadruple the budget for the tourism department. I was so tired of those damn Pure Michigan commercials. Okay. You realize Kentucky spends 4 times more on tourism than we do. To say nothing of Michigan, they're blowing us out of the water. So if you're not even competing, if you're not even on the field, you're just not going to win that business. And I mean, good grief. I mean, Ohio's a much cooler state to visit than Kentucky. Love them, but we are, right? And we need to tell our own story better than that. I do think we need to get our tax structure better in line. The states that are booming that I talked about, Georgia, Florida, Texas, have no income tax, right? If you want to attract people to the state, there's probably no better way to do it than to say, come here, build your American dream here, and we'll keep government out of your pocket as much as we can. And we have to do the same thing with property tax relief. We need to I think we have in the bills we passed. There's more to do. But I think, being a state where our young people want to stay is hugely important.
So what do we do about the getting so close to this rolling blackouts? I know I'm jumping back to when you had mentioned that we're super close. Mm-hmm. What do we do as a state?
Well, I think Trump has actually answered a little bit of that with the plant down in Portsmouth, right?
Yes, I mean the answer is more generation, and we passed House Bill 15 this term, which is just sending shockwaves across the energy industry nationwide.
In a good way or a bad way?
In a good way.
Okay.
In a good way. We are taking the public utilities out of the driver's seat in terms of generation. We are letting other folks generate power. We are increasing competition. Increased competition drives down prices. Mm-hmm. We are making it easier for all of these. Part of the issue with why we didn't have enough juice to serve multiple factories was we had all these bizarre regulations that said you got to go beg AEP for the power. Now we're saying, no, you can generate your own power on site. right? So if the next Sofidel comes to town, the next Anduril comes to town, we have greased the skids to say, generate your own power to serve your own factory. And so you don't have those delays, you don't have that drain on the existing grid. You get away from this idea that we got to run, lines all over the place. So that's the solution is more generation. I think that, like a lot of things, folks may be a little, they don't love that idea at first, but I think when you think about, we're here in a podcast studio at 9:30 at night in Circleville with bright shining lights and
Right.
Equipment running all day. It takes power.
Right.
We use a lot of energy right now. When I was in Baghdad, the lights went off at 8:00. Okay, they were off for the and we were talking pitch black. They didn't have enough juice. I would hate to see us even take one step, down that route.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah. Because maybe I'm wrong, but I remember seeing an article, and it might have been in the New York Post, where they had talked about to save on power and stuff like that, and electric, having lights go off at a certain
right.
hour in New York,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's just crazy and dangerous.
You should nowhere in America should have to have rolling blackouts.
Right.
I mean, that is a failure of public policy. That is putting, goofy activist demands over the greater good of everybody else, right? So we want to grow. We want to grow in Ohio. We want to generate our own power. We don't want to be at the whims of, states that are hostile to energy generation. So I think you're going to see more activity on that in the next term.
And hopefully that'll help lower down residential's electric bills.
Absolutely. More competition reduces costs. Getting the public utilities out of the driver's seat and having a stranglehold on things, it's good policy.
What have you focused on for economic development for the district also?
Yeah.
What else have you?
Well, I think one of the most exciting projects we've had is Anduril.
Mm-hmm. I got to tour the
talking-
facility, by the way.
Yeah, I did too. It's amazing.
You got to see Lucky though. I never met him.
Who's Lucky?
Palmer Lucky.
Yeah.
He's a
Okay.
yeah.
He made it sound like a mascot or something. You got to see Lucky.
Palmer Lucky was in town. He met with me and the speaker
Nice.
at the Statehouse, and then we toured the facility the day after. I mean, it's really exciting. I mean, it's revolutionizing military contracting, and my goodness, if there's ever an industry that probably needs a shakeup, it's Pentagon contracting, right? We don't need jets that take 6 years to build. What they're specializing in is let's essentially build fighter jets the way we used to build tanks, which is at a Ford plant, where you build them like a car.
Yep.
And then you take that existing infrastructure and you use it to make a tank. Yeah. They're bringing the same thing to airplanes, which is pretty amazing.
And build them by hand.
Building them by hand, nothing welded to the floor.
No, it was such a neat thing. Even the dolly was on wheels.
Yeah. And understand, this is a project that 49 other states would have gnawed through their left wrist, to win. Everybody wanted this project. They decided to come to Ohio. And folks need to understand that's because of the tools we have in the toolbox. It's the planning that we've done. It's being open to business. It's being, doing some of the things that it takes to land that big fish. That's 4,000 jobs in Taze Valley School District.
Let alone to land it in Pickaway County.
To land it in Pickaway County, and to land it in the part of Pickaway County where we have spent 40 years preparing to land that big fish, right? North of Duval Road it has been understood that that's where we try to drive the most development, the Rickenbacker area, okay? And so residents have known that for decades.
Right.
And folks have been able to adjust accordingly. The county commissioners, when I was there, we never did an incentive. We never did a deal south of Duval Road, right? We set the rules, we stuck to the rules, and we set the table to where we could finally land, that project. And that's really huge. I'm really focused on transportation, really focused on infrastructure. US 23 running all the way through the county, obviously. It's not just important for us, it's important for the entire state. We probably cannot continue to have bottleneck throughout Southern Ohio, right, on a route that is becoming more and more and more crucial to our state economy. So I got about $19 million to improve the 762 US 23 intersection there on the northern part of the county. South Bloomfield's done an amazing project where this is a village project, not a state project.
Right.
Where they added a turning lane all the way through South Bloomfield. And I got them
It was much needed.
It was much needed. I got them $1.5 million in the last capital budget to kind of be the last dollars in to make sure we got that done.
Nice.
That's alleviating a lot of traffic concerns.
Oh, yeah.
And there's more to do. So we're looking at all kinds of projects to just continue to keep Pickaway County moving and safe as, we continue to be a real hot spot for the state.
Is there a possibility of ever widening 23 to 3 lanes on each side?
I think certainly at certain parts. I don't think I'm breaking any news. I mean, ODOT has had an idea of a bypass in the Bloomfield area for a very long time. I think that is a matter of when, not if.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'd be good for everybody, right? I mean, that's you see exits and those towns still thrive. But I think that as you continue to grow, when we are marketing Southern Ohio, one of the first things that we get is, it's getting really hard to get to Southern Ohio, on US 23. So
5 o'clock. It's busy on US 23.
It's tough for our residents, right? Mm-hmm. So we still look. I work in Circleville. I want more people to be able to work in Circleville. But when you're this close to Columbus, we know that a lot of folks are going to drive north for work.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to make sure that they can continue to do so without becoming, a New York, Richie, a New York style commute.
That's okay.
It's okay. It's all right.
We don't want that gridlock here. So.
No. And talking about you working in Circleville, congratulations on the new office space.
Thank you.
And welcome to the block.
Yeah, it's exciting. So my wife is very excited to come have Richie's be part of our lunch together. So she can't eat. She said she's pregnant. She's not eating lunch meat until then. But so we actually yesterday we're talking. We got it all planned.
Nice.
It's really exciting. Look, it's. I walked out my front door and I walked to the courthouse. It took 43 seconds.
Right.
And I sit.
I saw that video on your, on your page.
It's the content for the kids, Jeremy. You're inspiring me. So, and I'm sitting in this 200-year-old house.
Did you figure out how to open the window the other day? I was walking my dog and I seen you trying to open the window and gave her a couple of good different tries, and then you were like, never mind.
No. We got a few open, but the problem is they're painted from the outside.
Oh, really?
The inside we had carved and it was working, but the outside was painted shut. So we actually had folks come up and get on very high ladders. But it's I've been sanding floors, refinishing floors, polyurethane. I was before I headed up here, we replaced probably a 100-year-old ceiling fan in 2 upstairs offices. It's a lot of projects, but look, I'm excited to kind of bring it back to life and to get more people into it. Mm-hmm. Bill Stout, the whole family, everybody who's had that house has preserved it and done what it takes to make it really good shape for the age that it is. But, when I got out of the Army, I could have moved anywhere in the world, and we chose to come here. And this community has embraced me, has given me opportunities that I never dreamed I could have. And so I want to have my business here. My wife wants to have her business. My wife wants to be here. So it's a really cool opportunity to bring it back to life. We think we'll get more people into it. We want to have events. We want to have it open. We want to come, have an event.
When they had their estate sale, I couldn't help myself. I didn't even buy anything. I just toured it.
I think you and about 67% of Circleville,
right? Yep, sure did.
It's really cool. I think there's a lot of people who have driven by and said, I've always wanted to see what was in that house. And I think, making it an office where folks can come, we're going to get a lot of people in there. It's an honor to be able to bring it back to life, and we're excited about it.
Yeah,
it should be. Mm-hmm. You should be.
Sometimes you work on a bill, and it's one of those bills that doesn't get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Do you have one of those in your mind? Maybe one that should have got more attention than it did.
I'm working on one now that is going to get more attention as we go, but right now has been kind of under the radar. And it's a bill that I think some people are surprised that myself as a Republican is working on. Okay, but I think it's long overdue. We did tort reform in 2005, and we put in damages caps on judgments for people who are injured, assaulted, who have been the victim of a tort. Okay, and I support caps to a degree.
For people who don't know what a tort stands for,
Sexual assault, civil damages for rape, medical malpractice, assault, anything where somebody has been physically or harmed in some way. Okay. And to get, we had doctors kind of being run out of the state. And so we put in damages caps, kind of got that under control. And generally, I think that's a good thing. But we never updated those damages caps for inflation. And what's the number one thing people have been talking about for the last 3 years? Inflation, right? Inflation out of control. We understand that the value of a dollar in 2026 is not what it was in 2020, let alone 2005,
right,
when we put in these damages caps. So we put in a damages cap of $250,000. Last year during the budget, I passed the budget out of the House on April 9th. In May, I had a civil trial here in Pickaway County. A young lady who had been raped 6 times from the ages of 6 to 9. We went after her abuser. We got a civil judgment against him. But she was subject to the caps, right? And so the damages for being sexually assaulted 6 times as a child is $250,000 in the state of Ohio. That's too low. And so we need to have a discussion about this. We need to make a change. My bill, I think it's 477 that we're working on right now, 476, would just adjust those damages caps for inflation, right? Take that from 250 up to 415, take the other caps up in the same manner. I think we've seen the math. I mean, this is broadly popular. Republicans like it, Democrats like it, independents like it. We need to get it done. I think it's long overdue.
Yeah. Speaking of Democrats and stuff, I know that you're a Republican. What do you say to the Democrats out there that are on the fence and thinking about, support and stuff like that? Do you work with a lot of Democrats?
So, I mean, in the State House, I have good relationships with everybody. I've never, when I was county commissioner, half the countywide elected officials were from the other party. We worked very well together. It's just being a professional. Doesn't change what I think. Doesn't change, what I'm going to advocate for. But, we've lost a little bit in public service the ability to disagree without being completely disagreeable. And
I agree with that.
And I don't want to lose that entirely. So I've passed a few bills with Democrats. I have a bill right now with Latina Humphrey out of Columbus. We have a bill to require that the Department of Corrections make transcripts of parole hearings, right? Keep a record of parole hearings. That's long overdue. Just some good transparency. Why did we let this person out? Why are we keeping them in? Regardless how you want to look at that issue, provide some transparency. I work with Rep. Rich Bound, who's now a judge in Franklin County, also a Democrat, to get all of our common pleas court docket records online. Use this newfangled thing called the internet in 2026 in the justice system. What do you think? We had a bill to require e-filing. So this is letting lawyers practice all around the state, letting more people get legal services, without kind of being just stuck in their own community. We've worked on those bills with Democrats. We've when we're going to talk about a contentious bill, all the cameras show up and all the networks are there and they've got the cameras rolling and we savage each other about abortion or guns or, voting procedure, whatever it may be. And then that bill is done and the cameras leave, but we all stay.
Right.
Right. And we stay for another 2 hours and we pass a bunch of bills that nobody ever reports on that are good policy for the state. And we all get up and say, thanks to my friend, such and such Democrat, thank you, Brian Stewart. You've been a good ally across the aisle. And so we work together better than I think folks sometimes appreciate.
I appreciate that.
So I have a question. And I think, aside from, making sandwiches, I'm also an actor and produced a couple of short films as well. And so tell me, is there any discussion or talk about increasing the tax credit for filmmakers?
So every budget cycle, there is a big target on the back of the film credit. And some folks in my party don't like the film tax credit. And so there's always some tug of war there. I like the film tax credit. A movie production, especially a large scale production, it's like a traveling factory, right?
Right.
They're bringing tons of jobs. You know, you think about the boom we saw just when they were building Sofidel. Well, when they're filming Avengers in Cleveland and Superman in Cleveland and Superman in Cincinnati and all the smaller productions too, those are folks traveling here. They're employing local folks who are in the film industry here. And I think it's important. Now, what I would I want to preserve the credit. I think we will preserve the credit. I would like to increase it, but I want this caveat.
Yeah.
I would like to see it increased if you set your movie in Ohio. Right? Meaning
you say it's Pickaway County or say it's
correct,
Circleville.
Right? So we've had a lot of movies shoot here that are, now look, I understand Superman's from Metropolis. He's not from Cincinnati.
Right.
Okay. But we have a lot of movies that get shot here that could just as easily, say they're in Columbus and they say, well, we're in New York. Well, we're in Chicago. Let's accentuate Ohio. Kind of getting back to what I talked about with the tourism credit.
Sure.
Let's tell our own story. Other states are doing this. You don't get to shoot, the James Bond movie, Spectre. The opening of that is in Mexico City. There's never been a movie shot in Mexico City in a long time in American production, but they did it. And the terms of that credit were they had to portray Mexico City in a positive light. It had to have certain odd, positive references. And if you watch that opening sequence, Mexico City looks amazing. And they condition their tax credits around getting that treatment. There's no reason we can't do the same. And I'd like to see more movies that sort of talk about how, boy, it's cool to have, Glenn Powell and Ryan Gosling in Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati, rather than just sort of be an amorphous streetscape for the Avengers, right?
Right, right. Like Down to the Felt was all Columbus.
Yeah.
Columbus with Columbus talent, Columbus crew.
Right.
Everybody involved in that picture except for your three main stars, four main stars.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many talented people in the film industry who are here, and I think you're seeing where the statistic is there's less being shot in Los Angeles than ever in the history of the film industry. So it's look, let's get some of that business. I like to take a lot of things from California. Let's take the film industry too.
Because we have it all here. We have the crew, we have the makeup, we have the lighting, we have all of that here in Columbus. And those people ventured to Cincinnati or Cleveland to shoot, and we have all that here.
And the other part of it is, for some, I had some colleagues who were against the film credit. And then, 2 months later, I'm in caucus and I get a text from some of those same colleagues did you see they're shooting Superman in Cleveland and Cincinnati? They send it to me because I know I'm a movie buff.
Right.
And I text back and I'm like, yeah. Do you have one of the reasons why they're here? Because we made it very financially advantageous to be here. And I think when Ohioans watched Superman last year, and he's literally just downtown Cleveland, he's at the Cincinnati Museum Center. People were proud of that, right?
Sure.
And I think that we can have that in a whole host of productions. And to your point, Richie, if we don't expand that credit in America, we're gonna have more and more productions just going overseas, which we really don't want. I mean, they're shooting Batman in Bucharest and everywhere else. I mean, it's we want American movies made in America, and I think we have to understand that we're competing against, in the same way that Ohio is competing with the entire rest of the country when it comes to landing Anduril, America is competing with the entire rest of the world when it comes to landing where a lot of these, film productions are going to go.
Right. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you.
So what's your priorities for next election?
Filmmaking. No.
No. What's your
Expand the
priorities?
tax credit.
I know that you have a couple bills out there that are kind of floating around out there and stuff like that. What's your priorities for the next?
I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be chairman of the budget committee again for a new governor. That's a really rare opportunity. We had 69 vetoes in the budget I passed from Governor DeWine. I'm willing to wager about 62 of those vetoes would not have happened under Vivek Ramaswamy. So there's a lot of good meat on the bone that we can go back and get. So I'm excited about that. I think we're going to be on a pathway to fully eliminating the income tax. I'm excited to work on that. More property tax relief. Look, two things that these are maybe a little more controversial than everybody's going to agree, but I've never been shy about just saying what I think. Ohio has the death penalty, and we've had an 8-year moratorium that's really kind of contrary to the law. Now, you don't have to agree with the death penalty necessarily, but that is the law. And if you have a unanimous jury that comes back and says this individual murdered 5 women, okay, and a unanimous jury has said that he should not be kept alive at taxpayers' expense for the rest of his life, we need to let those things be carried out. And so I think with the new governor, we'll have that opportunity. I've worked on that bill to get us back to honoring the sentences. It's really hard to impose the death penalty, okay? In Claremont County, there's a guy who he marched his 3 sons out into the yard, and he executed all 3 of them point blank range with a rifle, okay? I don't think that guy should be kept alive at our expense for the next 50 years. Right. Okay. Now, I also think we have a crime problem. We have some municipalities in this state who have decided they don't really want to enforce the law. Okay. Even downtown Columbus, which is a really nice downtown by a lot of city standards, doesn't look like it did 20 years ago. And that's a choice. And I think that I get a lot of constituents who say, how do we have a state that is kind of red and getting a little redder, that's been pretty solidly conservative, and still have this policy in Columbus where you can steal things off the porch, and the local prosecutor has said, we're not going to arrest people for that. Okay. So some folks are going to get their house in order, or the state legislature is going to help them get it in order. And I think that changing some laws to give the state a little more of a free hand to say, no, state law is going to apply everywhere. We're not going to have policies where, you don't get to prosecute people in Franklin County. We're not going to have policy where, the county jail won't tell ICE that a rapist is there who's set to be deported. And we're not going to tell the federal government because we want to appease some activists. So I want to work on that. I want to really kind of get our arms around making sure that we have consistent enforcement of our criminal laws everywhere, and that we don't have 4 counties essentially flouting the law.
A lot of people don't know exactly what's wrong with our death penalty system. Yeah. Can you expand on that?
Well, the death penalty exists in Ohio. That's what your elected representatives imposed. It takes a unanimous verdict of a jury to assess the death penalty, and so it's really reserved for the true most heinous murders among us. The governor has basically decided that I think he is personally against the death penalty, and so he's decided he's just going to not carry any of them out. My opposition to this is there is a constitutional method to do that. It's called a pardon, or it's called clemency. It's not just kick the can down the road for 8 years and leave it for the next guy or the next gal. And so my concern has been we're just kind of flouting the law, right? We're not enforcing the law. I'm going to be consistent that I think the law should be enforced. If you want to change the law, work on that. We have a abolition of the death penalty bill in the legislature every single term. It doesn't go anywhere because it doesn't have enough support. Because most Ohioans still believe that if you rape and murder 3 children,
you're a monster.
If you're a monster, we don't have to keep you alive at our expense forever.
So what is, and I don't know if you know the answer or not, what is the number of people who are sentenced to the death penalty a year in Ohio?
In a year, it's not very many. We have about 130 some people on death row in the entire state.
Okay.
The Attorney General's office puts out a report every single year detailing every single person on death row, the entire history of their case, what they were convicted of. I'll tell you, Richie, it's stomach churning stuff. Okay. And so you read these accounts of what these people did to get the death penalty. I mean, there's a guy in Cleveland who killed 2 women in Cleveland, drove to Akron, killed 2 more people there. Okay? He's been on death row for like 40 years. Okay? And so the other thing you find in there is like, you'll hear this stat, well, we've exonerated some folks off death row. Great, we should. I mean, absolutely, let's get it right. But we've never had somebody executed who the Innocence Project comes back later and says, oh, actually they were innocent, right? Absolutely, exhaust all the appeals, do all the work, make sure we get it right. But at this point, most of the folks on death row have confessed, or there's undeniable DNA evidence, right? The guilt is not really in question. It's just a question of, does what they did qualify for that penalty? And I understand people are gonna have a difference of opinion on this, but I think it is dangerous for our prison guards to be watching some of these monsters who literally just
don't have anything to lose.
Have nothing to lose. Have nothing to lose.
And if they killed a prison guard, or if they killed another cellmate, or somebody,
it's not going to change nothing.
Life without parole, on top of life without parole, it's not much of a penalty. No. So it's unsafe for them. And look, we were we safer 50 years ago when we had the death penalty and we didn't have some of these monsters walking amongst us? We were. And everybody knows we were. And so, I think we just have to be serious about we have to do some of the things it takes to make people safe. And I think this is one of them.
Yeah. So you kind of already answered this question, but I wanted to hit it up again. Where do you see Ohio heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
A lot of movies. Sorry.
Where I want Ohio to head is, I want us to get back to being the premier state. I want us to be a net inbound migration. I want folks to leave other states and come here. I want to be viewed as a cool state that's good for young people. I want us to keep more of our own students here. One of the things I did in the budget was we passed the Governor's Merit Scholarship. You realize now, under the budget that we passed, if you graduate in the top 10% of your high school class as a high school senior, whether your class is 40 students or 400 students, you are automatically admitted to any public university in Ohio of your choice. You apply, you're in. That's fantastic. We need to do more things like that. If we can keep high school seniors, make them Ohio college graduates, we have a really good chance of keeping them as long-term Ohioans. It's much easier to keep somebody here than win somebody from abroad. And I think that we should be doing the kinds of things that our competitors are doing to kind of get our groove back. And that's what I want to see over the next 5 years.
You're not even reinventing the wheel here. You're just kind of saying, hey, these guys are doing it. Why don't we do it?
Yeah, I mean, we know the policies that are pro-growth. We know policies that are competitive. We know what young people want to see, right? So, Ohio now has more professional sports per capita than any state in America. That's cool, right? I mean, there's no young people who are saying, boy, I really want to live somewhere where there's nothing to do. I want to live in the town with no great Richie's Delis, right? I want to live in the town with no movie theater, right? Folks want amenities, right? They want, they want good restaurants. They want good parks. They want good transportation. They want good entertainment. And so, my Bengals were in the Super Bowl in 2021, and they flew out to Los Angeles, and they went to SoFi Stadium, and it is an absolute palace. It's a palace. Not one single Bengals fan came home and said, you know what? I'm really glad we have nothing that nice in Ohio. Right? No, they all said, well, why can't we have that?
Right.
Why can't we have that?
Right.
Well, we're going to have that now. Right? And it's not everybody loves all the details of it, but let's be realistic. When folks cut the ribbon on nice stadiums in our biggest metro areas and they're attracting tens and tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people to those areas who are buying sandwiches and staying in hotels and shopping in our restaurants and going to concerts, like that is going to grow Ohio.
It's similar to the Bucky story, right?
Absolutely.
$1 million in one day. The mayor touted that all the hotels were sold out in the area.
Right.
I'm sure that they ate locally too. If they did eat for Bucky's,
Right.
I don't know if they ate at Bucky's
Yeah,
or where they ate it, but
I mean, yeah, exactly, Jeremy. If you can sell $1 million at Bucky's, what on earth is going to happen when we have the Super Bowl?
right.
Okay, because we can do that now. We're going to have a facility where you can have the Super Bowl. We're going to have a facility where you can have the NFL draft on the Ohio River. You're going to have a facility where you can have indoor concerts, the biggest acts in America, all coming to Ohio. These are good things.
Those are great things.
That's right.
Can you tell me because you were talking about working across the aisle and stuff like that. Can you tell me a time where a constituent or something changed your mind?
It's a good question. I have always been very, very deferential to the ag industry. Very, very helpful to the ag industry. We're in Pickaway County. Agriculture is the #1 industry in Ohio. A lot of my legal clients are farmers. I serve with 2 county commissioners who are both farmers, right? So it's really important to me, and I think Farm Bureau's position for a very long time has always been, let the farmer do what the farmer needs to do on the farmer's own farm. Okay. And so that's kind of always where I have started on an issue. Respect private property rights, let ag be ag. And so we had an issue in Madison County where there was a biodigester project that, we started to get some feedback that was kind of controversial. Residents were upset about, where it was going to go, some of the details of it. And I would say just being pro-agriculture, my first reflexive position was like, well, biodigester is important in the ag industry. It's something that obviously that landowner wants. And so, I've not been the guy that runs in with a pitchfork and says no to everything under the sun. But constituents changed my mind on that. The township trustees voted, the county commissioners voted. You had hundreds of residents, not just 20, hundreds of residents showing up, meeting after meeting after meeting, and really making the kind of logical argument that we're not against this as a concept. We're not against all biodigesters. We're not all against all biodigesters in Madison County, but we're against this one in this place because it's right by all these houses, because it's near these schools, because it's just not the right fit for the type of project that it is. And so, having those meetings, listening to those concerns, then I introduced a bill to really strengthen the locals and essentially say that this project would not be able to happen based on those local votes that had already occurred. I introduced that bill. Senator Michelle Reynolds, my counterpart in the Senate, she introduced us a bill that was similar but kind of came at it from a different angle. And between those 2 bills being introduced, the project decided we're going to go elsewhere. And so, feedback from locals, from constituents, it's why we do this job. The job is representative. We're supposed to represent what folks think. And so I think the difference, though, is some people think it means represent what I think today and nobody else.
Right.
I have 116 to 120,000 constituents. I represent every village in Pickaway County, not just one. I represent all the townships, not just one. And so kind of arriving at what that real consensus is and what, most people believe is sometimes tougher than folks think.
Sure. Sure. It's a hard choice, right? So I know that you kicked it around a little bit, and I have to ask directly, in one sentence, what's the biggest difference between you and the person that you're running against, Patty Hamilton?
The name came up.
She's running against me. I get things done.
Yes, she's running against you. I'm sorry.
Get that correct.
I get things done. She blows a lot of hot air. I work well with colleagues. She has burned bridges everywhere she's gone. She was censured just last week by the Pickaway County Republican Party for just years upon years upon years of running people down, being destructive, never being able to collaborate on anything.
You said censored?
Censured.
Censured. What does that mean?
The party voted. I did not vote. I didn't take part in it, but the party voted and said, you're not welcome at any party functions anymore. You're censured. You've violated our bylaws. You're not going to be a part of our events moving forward.
Oh, wow.
Public disapproval. I'm working to provide real property tax relief to the people who need it most. She wants to defund the police, defund our schools, defund our fire departments. That's bad policy. I am in a position to be the chairman of the House Finance Committee for 2 consecutive terms. That is an enormous opportunity for our district. I can guarantee you the way that she conducts herself, the way that she burns bridges and sows division and is just simply against everything positive that's ever happened in this community. If she took that temperament to the State House, she would be the backbencher of all backbenchers. She would never pass a bill, and we would literally just squander the best opportunity this district has had to have influence in this state that we've had in 30 years.
Wow. That was a lot. Well, Brian Stewart, that ends my questions. You got anything else that you want to put out there?
Oh my goodness. Well, go to StewartForOhio.com. You can see the campaign. I'm still active on social media, even though sometimes it's less fun. But I'm on Twitter at Brian Stewart OH, Facebook Brian Stewart State Representative. Love to hear from folks. Love to talk, and looking forward to a pumpkin show with us on the block here with Richie's. This is going to be fun.
Yes,
it's going to be fun.
That's part of the goal.
That's right.
All right.
I love it.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is another episode of Week in Review with Richie and
Jeremy.
And our special guest, State Representative Brian Stewart. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Brian, for coming.
It's been great.